What's up, guys? We're going to continue the maintenance series today with the maintenance that everybody should be doing. It's very easy and we really don't need a lot of stuff to do it. So what are we doing? We're going to change the oil. Basically, to do this, all you need is a flathead screwdriver. You can get away with just this, but I do recommend the Harley oil filter wrench to take off the oil filter. It just makes it easier. You just stick it on there, spin it off with a ratchet. It just makes it a whole lot easier. You can get it off without it, but sometimes it can be a pain. But I recommend that. I'll put links in the description for all this below. Other than that, we're going to need the hardware to pull this off. We're going to need an oil filter for your specific Sportster, and we're going to need some motor oil. Now, guys, I don't want to get into a debate on motor oil. I know everybody has their preference. I use standard 2050 Harley dyno oil, just conventional oil. I feel the synthetic does last a little longer. It makes the top end a little noisier. So I prefer the conventional. I change my oil about every 1,500 miles. So it's really not a problem with the oil breaking down, and you know, I keep fresh oil in it all the time. So with that being said, let's get to it. So all right, we're going to start the oil change, and what we need to do is go ahead and crack this oil cap and leave it loose so we can get some air in the system to help drain the oil out. All right, guys, so after we crack the oil cap, we're going to come around to the right side of the bike, right underneath the battery cover, and you're going to see this tube right here. This is your drain tube. It's held on by one of these little spring clips here. We just remove it and put it to the side. And then your drain hose here, we'll take it, run it right down to the bottom there. We are ready to drain the oil. I have one of these Harley pans. It just makes life a little easier for me. But in order to drain the oil, all we do is remove this little clamp here with a flathead screwdriver, loosen up the clamp, pull the plug. You want to check your plug. If you have any white goop on the end of your drain plug, it means you have a little condensation in your oil, and it's definitely time to change. Mine's clean, so we're good to go. We're going to let that drain out, and while we're doing that, we're going to go over, get the oil filter out. All right, guys, so on the right side of the bike, right in front of the front cylinder, at the bottom of the cylinder, you're going to find your oil filter right here. Like I said, you can twist this off by hand. It's a little tough. I use the Harley oil filter wrench. It is a messy process. It gets oil everywhere. So what I've done is I've made a little cardboard chute here to try to catch the oil and drain it down in a bucket so it doesn't run down all on the floor. We'll see how I do. So all right, guys, so to get this off, we just put our wrench on there and give it a couple twists. We're going to remove this and go ahead and spin our oil filter off. And here comes the mess. There we go. So oil filter's off. Mess is draining down into a bucket. Well, it got all over the floor too. So yeah, it's a little bit messy. So all right, guys, as the oil's draining out, let's talk a little bit about oil. If you rub it, you can feel it. It's just broken. There's no, it's not lubricating anymore. There's nothing left to it. It's broken down. And it just shears when you pull your fingers apart. So that oil is shot. It is time to go. Okay, so now that the oil is drained out, we're going to go ahead and put the plug back in. I'm not going to tighten it down yet. We're going to come back to this, and I'm going to show you why here in a little bit. So let's go over and get the oil filter on. All right, guys, so here we are back to the oil filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our oil filter here, and we're going to fill it up about halfway with oil. So after we fill our oil filter up about halfway with oil, I like to put just a little oil around this rubber O-ring. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a little. All right, so after we do that, we're going to go ahead and spin it on. Now be careful when you spin this on, you don't want to cross thread it. All right, so when we spin this on, we're going to go ahead and spin it on, and you're going to feel it. It's engaged. All right, it's touching, the O-ring is touching the face of the oil filter mount. So from there, what we want to do is we want to turn it a half the 3/4 of a turn, and that's it. Leave it alone. You're done. That's all you have to tighten that down. Don't go cranking down the oil filter. It'll be a nightmare getting off. That's all you have to do. After you start the bike, if you see some leaking coming from the oil filter, all you need to do is go over there and just give a little bit more of a turn clockwise. Not much, by hand. You always tighten these by hand, never by a wrench or anything like that. So oil filter's installed. Let's go put some oil in the bike. All right guys, here we are on the left side of the bike at the oil tank. So we're gonna go ahead and fill her up. I put in 2.5 quarts. Now remember, we already have some oil in our oil filter, so I start with 2.5 quarts, start the bike, and then I'll go from there. So there's one. There's two. All right, so I don't know if you can see this, but I'm at 600 milliliters. That's because I put some in the oil filter. I'm going to go down to about 5, I'm at 800, I'm sorry, 800. I'm going to go down to about 500, and that's going to give me 2.5 quarts. I'm going to go ahead and put the dipstick back in. Now if you remember, we left the plug loose on the other side. Let's go over there and I'll show you why. We want to leave this loose, I'm sorry. We want to keep that loose. All right guys, here we are back at the drain plug. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull this plug and just wait for the oil to start draining out, and then I go ahead and plug it back up. And basically what that does is it makes sure that oil gets down in this tube, so you don't have an air bubble in here. You don't want that air bubble to go back up in your system and run the oil pump dry. So we just do that just to make sure that we have oil in the tube and we've gotten rid of the air bubble. And after that, we just go ahead and tighten down our clamp. Now when we tighten this down, there's a torque rating for it. I just do it up snug. It's not going to go anywhere. Clean it off. Then we just put it back where we found it. Just like that. So let's go back up and tighten up our oil cap and get ready to start this up. All right guys, here we are back. We're just going to go ahead and tighten this down. Put it back in place. Give it a little wipe. We'll clean that up here in a bit. Now we're going to go ahead and start our motor. When we start the motor, we want to make sure we keep an eye on that oil light to make sure we get pressure. So let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, let's give her a start and let's make sure we have oil pressure. And oil pressure lights off. We are good to go. So all right guys, we have oil pressure. Let's go over here and check our level. We're going to go ahead and pull our dipstick out. We're going to wipe it off. Put it back in, give it a twist. Bring it back out and see where we are. About 3/4 up. Here's your minimum. Here's your maximum. I'm about 3/4 in between. So I'm good. So I'm going to put this back in. And a cold oil change really doesn't count, guys. So what you want to do is after you get this, you want to make sure your level's within range. Go ahead and start the bike up. Let it get to operating temperature. Shut it off and check it again. So with that knowledge, we're going to go back to the bench. All right, guys, here we are back at the bench. So I can't stress enough how important keeping fresh oil is in your engine. It keeps it lubricated. It helps keep it cooler. It helps it just run the way it's supposed to for many, many, many miles down the road. In your service manual, I highly suggest you get one of these for your specific motorcycle. It's going to tell you exactly how to do it. So if you have this book and with the video, you should be able to get this done no problem. This isn't necessary, but I do recommend it. The Harley oil wrench. I'll put a link in the description below. Really makes it easy, especially if you're going to be doing these oil changes yourself. Instead of taking it to the Harley dealer, I went to the Harley dealer today. I got the oil filter and 3 quarts of oil. It was 33 bucks. So about half price of what they charge you to do, and it takes all of 10-15 minutes after you get used to doing it, and it's easy, quick, and it is absolutely necessary. So other than that, guys, that's about all I have today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button for me. If If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We're going to keep this maintenance series going. I got some more videos coming and some moto vlogs. As soon as this weather breaks, I'm getting back on the bike. It's been raining, so I really haven't been able to ride. But again, if you liked it, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And like always, guys, ride safe and be careful out there. Later.